All right, what's going on, everyone? Welcome, Joseph Vore Podcast, JV Podcast Network. We are here. We're continuing the trend with the Zoom calls, Zoom podcast, uh, with Joe Pun, our special guest today, Director of Spring Training, Oakland A's. That's why I got the hat on. Back in the day when I was an intern there, even got my bobblehead. So don't worry, my heart still rides with my Cleveland Indians, but we're paying homage, however you want to say it, to the Oakland A's today, since we got Joe here. So Joe, what's been going on? Let's catch up a little bit. We haven't had the opportunity to speak in a while.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all kind of in the same boat right now. Still a lot of work to do for me. Our season just ended a couple of weeks ago now, which is crazy. Maybe actually almost a month ago.
Yeah,
which is insane. Like, time has just flown. Living under the quarantine, family here. I'll be honest. I mean, there's definitely the world's crazy right now and it's insane, but there's some silver linings for sure. Like spending time with my kids and my wife at home and doing school at home. I mean, there's some really interesting things that have come out of this, but yeah, just still plugging away. I mean, there's still a lot to do, even though the season has ended, and we're just trying to stay busy. So.
Yeah, I think about the last two springs, and I think about it very interesting. Because you guys missed some games this year, right? It was cut a little bit short. You guys were able to play a decent amount of games, but it got cut short. And then I think back to the year prior with the A's going over to Japan to play those early season MLB games for that showcase. You haven't had a full spring, a regular spring like you're used to since I was an intern in spring 2018. That's crazy. That has to feel weird. I'm sure you were ready this year, like, okay, here we go. We're gearing up. We're going to have all of our games. We're going to get back to how things, I'm used to having them. And then
Right.
all this happens.
Yeah. Just exactly what you said. We were expecting this season to be like, okay, cool. We're going to have games with weather that's probably in the 80s, hopefully.
Oh,
What I
yeah.
mean? Last season, I don't know if you remember, we had the first game of the season. It was just us versus the Mariners, and it was like a torrential, just
Yeah,
downpour.
I remember.
We played 1.5 innings, and I mean, that game was insane. That was just nuts. And so we were really looking forward to being able to play through the end of March and have some fun games out there. I mean, we still played 10 games, and we still had a great time. But you're right. I mean, it's just it was, as anybody will tell you, no one could expect what has happened just in baseball, but I mean, just around the nation. I mean, it's insane, like how things have changed over the course of the last month. Yeah, we were looking forward to it. I mean, obviously we were expecting a short season 2 years ago.
Right.
And then this year it just kind of like, guess what? Now the season's a little shorter, but I think all of us were in the same boat. So just reaction. I think the other thing too, just in general, I mean, personally and work life and everything else, is just that everything was changing so quickly, from even hour to hour, just information. I'm not talking about information about like what we're supposed to do, but just information about Corona and,
Right.
how do we prevent it? Like, what are the new measures? Like, what's the new, and it's still going on, which is crazy. But so just learning how to react in that atmosphere. And you're right. It's a bummer. I know a lot of people were bummed that we had a game on St. Patrick's Day that we didn't get to play.
Yeah.
But it's obviously it's for the best. And so,
yeah, no, you bring up an interesting point, because at the time when all this was going on, I was in Mexico for work doing the interviews as I was last year.
right.
And like you said, I mean, hour to hour, I mean, I'd wake up every single day, or, when I would go off property and not have cell service, then I step back into where I'm at the hotel and the Wi-Fi, my phone just blows up. It's like all these messages, my mom and dad, like, here's what's going on in Ohio. This is what the governor just said. It's like, this Trump press conference, and you're getting all this news, and then you're getting ESPN notifications, because it's like, the NBA, we're suspending for 30, it was like every day, it was like 30 days or no fans, like 30 days. And then boom, we just have to cancel this because all of a sudden Gobert gets it, and they're testing all these players, and guys are being held in the locker room for hours, not allowed to leave the stadium until everyone gets tested. And it was, it was like, this building, it was kind of growing, and then all of a sudden it went into hyperspeed, and then it was this bubble and it bursted. And then, like, now all of these things happened. I think once these public figures get sick because it's newsworthy, not that they're more important than, anyone else. But John Smith in, in small town Richland County, back in Ohio, isn't going to be on the national news versus, if an NBA player, a public figure like a Tom Hanks or an Idris Elba
Yeah.
get it. And then when all those, I think that's when it really becomes real to a lot of people, when you see these different diseases or flus or, whatever, you think about, another serious situation, like when Magic Johnson came out with HIV, like that just, it just kind of makes that real, because that impacts everyone. They're like, oh my gosh, Magic Johnson or this NBA player, this athlete, like this actor, like they're untouchable, right? They have resources to all of this, but at the end of the day, we're all, we're all in, danger if we don't take the correct measures.
Well, I think that's the thing. I think, you look back in history, and I talked to this about a bunch of, you end up talking about this stuff every day, right?
Right.
Just start, not like conspiracy theories or anything like that, but just like playing things out. Like, what has happened? How did we get to this point? So I like history. Like I've always liked, studying how things happen. In fact, like being on quarantine, you end up watching a bunch of movies.
Oh yeah.
Right. I ended up watching like 1917.
Great.
I really like war movies.
Yeah.
And it just makes you think, like World War I, World War II, Vietnam, specifically in wars, you look at like there's a catalyst moment. There's like, okay, this happened, like assassination of Archduke Ferdinand. It's just like that's what set this thing off.
Pearl Harbor, like stuff like
Pearl
that.
Harbor. Yeah, Bomb Pearl Harbor. So you look at it in a way that, like you brought up, the day that Go Bear, they shut that game down.
Right. Yeah,
that was one thing.
Before. They were ready to go, and it's like all of a sudden we got to clear this out. Everyone back to the locker room.
Yeah, and then later that night, I think Tom Hanks came out,
right,
and was like, "Hey man, FYI, I tested positive along with my wife." And so Tom Hanks is like America's sweetheart. Like Forrest Gump has COVID-19. That kind of woke up some people's just minds to like, whoa, this isn't so distant.
Right.
If Tom Hanks is getting it, or like you said, Idris Elba, or, Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of insane. And it made it a little bit more realistic. And I think that's where all those measures started going into place. So like NBA shuts down.
Yeah.
Public places shut down. Social distancing enacted, which is great. I think one positive thing is just to see the response time.
Yeah.
And the willingness, for the most part, of people to be like, yeah, man, not only for me, but for the health of others, we got to do this. And it's going to hurt everywhere, but it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, case in point, I couldn't believe it, but it really hits home. My wife's father actually caught COVID-19.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And that's where it was just like, holy smokes. Like he lives in California, and he's doing a lot better now, which is amazing.
Yeah.
He was sick for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And in the back of my mind, I'm just like, dude, this guy, I mean, he probably has this thing, man.
Yeah.
And when it gets into your circle of even family or friends or whatever, now it's like, it's real. And you realize just the repercussions and the realness of it, I guess. So the shortened season, and that moment that we were in season. So we just played a game on the 10th of March. I believe that was either that day or the 11th or 12th or something. I don't remember exactly.
Right in that range.
And then from that point on, it was just like, it was, every second things were changing from a national perspective, from a world perspective. I mean, everything just kind of changed from that point on.
Yeah, it's wild. And it's kind of funny to see. I'm looking at, the stuff that we're used to seeing. I try to think about the way, that things are changing, the way that we look at things. And you kind of mentioned response time. I think I told this story on a previous podcast. I'm not sure if it's out yet or maybe it's coming out, but they're showing these old sporting events, right? Like on ESPN and things like that. And I kind of compare it to when you go back like on YouTube or whatever, and it's like 05 and you're watching that like NFL jacked up segment where there's all these big hits. And in the moment, in 05, like this is awesome, right? But in modern day now, we look at it and we're like, oh my God, CTE, concussions, like, like not good. And then I'm watching this old sporting event, a golf event, and Tommy Fleetwood is walking through the gallery by the ropes and high-fiving everyone. I'm like, Tommy, what are you doing, man? Like, I'm like, this is probably, a tournament. It could have been 2015, 2016,
Yeah.
years ago before any of this. But it's so weird. You think about response time and just the way that we react to things now. I think about like shaking people's hands or him walking through and
Yeah.
just high-fiving fans, something that I'd be normally like, that's awesome, right? He's walking up the 18th or he's walking off the 18th and he's high-fiving people. That's great fan engagement. But now I'm like, oh my God, like if only he knew, if only he could, like just think about, that just looks weird to us. It's
Yeah.
almost like offensive to us. It's weird just how those little things, shaking hands, high fives, all of that.
Well, you start thinking about, so, I go to Costco because I buying food for my family.
Yep.
And granted, you're still in Arizona?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's actually not that crazy out here. Like,
No, it's
if
not
you
too
go
bad.
there right at the morning, like there's a line to get in to like raid the toilet paper and all that kind of stuff,
Right.
which that's a completely different subject. But
Yeah.
you go to the registers and they've got the plexiglass up now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you start thinking about down the line, like, is that ever going to come? I mean, are they really going to take that down now? Or is that now like a fact of life?
I don't think so. I think just keeping that distance and being more sanitary and just I'm just so much more thoughtful now of all that stuff. And even when I'm in the grocery store, I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to pick up something to look at, even if I have my gloves on, because I go to the grocery store, I put gloves on. And I'm
Right.
like, unless I'm really going to grab it and put it in my cart, I really don't want to take it off the shelf. And, I use those reusable bags too, and you can still use them, but you have to keep them in your cart. You have to bag it yourself. You can't put it up on, the normal bagging station or give it to, the person at the register or the person filling your bags. Like you have to, anything that you're bringing in, you can still do it, but you have to do it yourself. They don't want it on their surface. They don't want it in the hands of their employees. It's just so, foreign. And it was really, overnight. Once all those things happened and, it got really serious, and really the only way to show the seriousness of it and to keep people from going out and doing these things is just to shut everything down. And that's exactly what we have. Everything is shut down in terms
Right.
of, like restaurants, bars, things like that, congregating in groups. Because if things weren't shut down, places like Chicago, places like here where people go out on, you mentioned like St. Patrick's Day, and I'm sure people come out, that's a big day for the A's, wear the, awesome jerseys,
Mhm.
people still would be out and around each other. And I think even as this passes, and even whenever they come up with something to, whether it's a vaccine, a treatment, whatever it is, it's going to take some time. It's not going to be like how it was overnight to really put us in this position. It's going to take some time for things to build back up. Even if, let's say they're playing opening day, is it out of the question that, if they're in a full stadium or if they're in a baseball stadium and everything is good, the hypothetical, could there only be like 10,000 people there? Less, maybe a little bit more. I don't know. Only like 20% of the stadium filled, just because it's, it's going to take time to build all that stuff back up.
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing for me looking at it is how many different business types, so that we're not even talking sports. Obviously, sports is a public event, right?
Mhm.
How many different business types are the chain reaction of effects from quarantining, right? You think about things were moving already to online marketplace. You got Amazon, they're taking over the world. You
Right.
got, you want something, you can buy it, you have it there that day. It's
Right.
crazy.
Our world is making its way to more and more remote, and now it's like, I think this might be the point where businesses are going to realize like, hey, let's just make the jump. We're doing it already. Let's just keep it going. Whether it's better for them business wise, expenses go down, and I think it's going to be more acceptable because of our, I'm sure this is right what you were going on to say, but that's the situation we're in. And interviews and things like that, especially first round of stuff. Maybe if you're interviewing for interns, maybe the first round's all like this. And if you really want to get to know someone and, you value that in-person experience, that might not be till maybe like a second or third round as you go
Yeah.
down. I mean, who knows? This could be that moment, that turning point. Like, all right, let's just make the leap. Let's just keep this going.
Yeah. I mean, it's insane. The amount of impact that this has had across the board with everybody. But what I will say is that you know, going back to my original point, things like this, I think, bring out the polarization of people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's really rarely a person that's just like in the midst of what's going on right now, and is just like, yeah, I mean, it's just kind of status quo. Like, you're either kind of erring on the side of, you see people, like even my kids, um, go put chalk on our driveway and write messages and spew positivity and kind of help others and drop off, order food for people and have it delivered. And you see those types of acts. You know, even with us with the stadium, you know, we tried to, as much as we could, donate food back that we weren't going to use because obviously we didn't have games. Um, and in that sense, it's great. People are working together. People are like realizing the sacrifice that healthcare workers go through, and police, fire, all these people. I mean, the frontline people. And then you got the other side where, you know, unfortunately, then you see like opportunists and stuff like that. But what I think I've seen, at least I haven't seen a lot of it, which is great. I could be speaking out of turn, but locally, I think everybody's erring on that side.
Yeah.
Everybody's erring on, like, we need to take care of each other. You know, we need to, if it's not, I mean, even if it's as simple as going to Target
Right.
and making sure that, you know, you're doing the best that you can, and you're not like hoarding
Right.
toilet paper. I mean, you're not trying to just for sake of being an anarchist, like stand next to people closely just for kicks. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
you're kind of abiding by what you need to do
Yep.
just to be a good person. And that's what's been encouraging in that. I think a lot of people have been doing it. But yeah, dude, I know it's weird where, you know, I feel privileged. I feel like I'm Joey Diaz or like you know, Theo Vaughn. I'm like back on the podcast. I'm on a regular, you know.
Yes,
And
yes, you
it's
are. You are
it's
now a recurring guest.
I appreciate it. You know, it's a bummer that, you know, this is kind of the world. So we definitely got to like kind of address maybe some of these things of what's going on.
Right.
But I'm positive, man. I think we're going to come out of it. And like I said, I think even me personally, it kind of resets
Mm-hmm.
kind of what you value
Right. It really does.
and what's important. And, you know, maybe coming out of these things, like we hope nobody gets sick. We hope nobody, you know, has tragedy, but you know, there is lessons to be learned, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
how are you still in town, man?
Well, so here we go, Joe. Here's a story for you. So, like, so this semester completely online, no in-person classes, and I loaded everything in my first half of the semester. So going up to spring break, I had all my classes, and after that, I have like nothing. So, the dropout sent me to Cabo for that first week ASU spring break, but
Right.
then I did 2 weeks of spring break. After Cabo, I flew to Cancun
Right.
and did that. So I did 2 weeks of spring break, and I was on the books. I already had a flight booked to go home April 20th because
Okay.
I booked it before all this got shut down. My brother, who is a freshman now at University of Cincinnati, plays baseball there, and he's been playing. He had a start under his belt, all that good stuff. And I was going to go home, and I'm not sure if he was going to pitch that night, but I was going to go home and see one of his games. And I figured when I came back, and all this stuff had changed, I still planned to go home, just to be home with family. But I decided, I don't want to come home any earlier. Let me side on the side of caution here, give myself, because I got home on the 19th, so basically I had a month. I figured that would be good. Let me be in my apartment alone, just in case, God forbid, if I was sick, that comes up out here before I go through the airport, get other people sick, or maybe contract it there and then bring it home to my family where there's 3 other people.
Right.
Right. So, and then I got a message from a girl that I interviewed pretty much every day in Cancun, and then um, 2 of her friends also that I interviewed pretty much every day in Cancun, that they tested positive for the coronavirus.
Mm.
So that kind of freaked me out a little bit. Luckily, I've had not one symptom at all. And then
Yeah.
I also got this opportunity because obviously what I do and what we do as a company with the daily dropout is all, shut down right now. Everything we do is out in public, whether it's the pranks, the interviews, whatever. And then we're moving out of our office, and we bought sort of this content house. It's like this, it's going to be our new office. And I had the opportunity to move in there with a couple other on-camera people, and we were going to quarantine there and then create content. So I was like, great, this is an opportunity for me to get work and hopefully, kind of prove and kind of create a role for myself so that I have employment, after, because I'm approaching graduation.
Right.
And then after I got that news, literally the night before, of course, I was supposed to move in. Of course, I have to let my bosses know. So I'm on another 2-week kind of isolation quarantine before, we kind of reevaluate if it's safe for me to move in again. So I've just decided it's best to stay out here, just for safety of myself. And I really don't want to go home, get my parents sick. I mean, even if I am fine, you still got to survive going through 2 airports and, a flight. And
Right.
maybe, and where we're at right now, they're kind of talking about how this could be the peak. This could be really bad. We really have to do what we can to get through these next few weeks, like through the month of April.
Right.
Hopefully before, hopefully this thing's going to start to plateau. It just seemed like about the worst time to travel. So just for all those reasons, to make a long story short, just, for the professional opportunity, but also mainly, a number one priority is just kind of the safety and health of it. Because my roommate went home to Wisconsin. He went home, pretty much right after the week after I got back from spring break. So about late, March 24th, 25th, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a little lonely, but I'm pounding out these, podcasts, and it's just good to know that I'm okay and that I'm not getting anyone else sick. So that's kind of why, I'm still in town.
Yeah, dude. I mean, interesting. I know you were getting like daily updates while you were down in Mexico, but
Right. It's so
I
weird.
feel like that's got to be like you're coming back to this alternate timeline.
It was,
Like,
it almost didn't seem real because down there you're still on spring break and everyone's still going crazy. They're either denying it, they don't care, or it's not that. At that point, it wasn't quite. It was serious, but I don't think people realized how serious it was. I was
right.
being very cautious. I even called my boss. We did extra day interviews. I'm like, because in Cancun, luckily, we didn't have to leave to film. We didn't have to leave where we were staying. We were able to do all of our filming there.
Right.
I was like, listen, I woke up from a nap after filming during the day. We were getting ready to go out at night, and I had to call him. I'm like, hey, like, for some reason, I woke up just with that feeling in your stomach. I'm like, I got to trust my gut here. I'm like, I just do not feel comfortable going out at night, being around even more people. Like, this thing is just weird. I'm getting texts from people that are like, hey, like, you should really think about coming home. Like, really stay safe. Like, really look out for yourself. But still during the day, people were still going out, and, and I'm seeing all the videos from people, like, they're packing these clubs at night. And then really when I came home and, and as soon as I get off the plane and I go back through customs, there's nobody there. The flight was very bare, very empty. And it felt eerie. And my roommate picked me up at the airport, and, Phoenix is usually pretty good. It's not, there's a lot of flights that go in and out, but it's never, I imagine it's not like an LAX type level, where it can just be, pretty frustrating just to be there. But it was just oddly, I mean, it really was. You put it perfectly. It's like coming back to a new universe, a new time, a new era. And it really took a few days to really set in. And it took a few days for me to I'm like, how do I even build my schedule here? Like, what do I even do? You know what I mean? Like, what's safe to do? What can I do? Then you just see people and they're like aliens. You're like, oh God, like, do I, just, you don't even want to, they could be in a distance. And I'm still like, man, I should just go home. Like, why am I out riding my bike or going for a walk right now? It was really, really weird.
Yeah. I mean, that's where I had to take a step back and just, because it's a different situation, kind of stuck at home and kind of make a checklist for myself, like a priority list, and not like a daily, like this is, I mean, there are some things like wake up, I got to get, but at the end of the day, like, I didn't want to just sit in a chair all day and kind of like mosey around my house and not spend time with my kids or my wife. And so, during the season, we rarely get to have like family dinners. So again, be able to eat dinner with my family and making the most of that time and spend time with my son who's 2. These are when you have kids, that's what I'm saying. There's some silver linings. Like, he's 2 years old. He's going to be 3 in July? Yeah. A couple of months, 3 months. And that time goes so quick, man.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And even since we've been home in the month, like the kid, the kid like has it start like formulating like even like more coherent thoughts with his
Yeah.
sentences. I'm just like, wow, I'm glad that I'm seeing this.
Right.
And then the other thing too is like I have a lot of work to do still, so a lot of it's phone calls, and
That's good.
so I've been walking around the neighborhood, man. Like just throwing the AirPods,
Yeah.
and like every day I probably walked around like 10 miles.
Oh yeah, I'm getting my 10,000 steps easy every day. I mean, I'm wearing
Yeah.
my, I never knew walking just, I'm not, it's not like I'm hiking. I'm just walking on the street or a sidewalk, just flat. And you never know how exhausting it is until you're actually doing some serious walking every day.
Oh yeah, dude. I've been joking around with people. I'm like, I know my neighborhood so good now, dude. Like I should reach out to Google and they throw a sensor on my head and I just freaking
Yeah.
walk it around so they can
You're
get
gonna be the
live.
guy, yeah.
Yeah, dude, Google Earth. Let's get some up-to-date photos. I'll spin around in a circle and walk like 10 miles. I don't care. You know what I mean? But yeah, I know, so many different things. I've been taking the bike out,
Yeah.
and walking with my family. I mean, that's something that's really, really cool. I mean, obviously we can't like go to the playground or go
Right.
out to eat or whatever, but get to talk just walking in our own little pod, I guess.
Mhm.
And it's been that part of it's been really, really fun.
That's
And
good.
so when you try to make the most of the situation, while still getting your stuff done, while still being, productive and making sure that you're doing everybody right. Like I said, it's not the best, it's not awesome, but it just makes you reevaluate and kind of rethink things. One of the things too that I'm sure we're gonna be talking about, but like I rarely watch stuff on TV or
Right.
Netflix. If I do, it's just like something in the background, like The Office or Parks and Rec or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Don't really
But
have time to like sit down, commit to that new show.
dude, for sure. And so like now, at the
Oh,
end of the
now.
day, after I've walked like 10 miles and I've played with my kids and we had dinner, and now it's just like, all right, well, let's sit down and try to consume something, I guess, and just see what's out there.
Well, let's get into it. What have you been watching? Now, okay, but first, before we get into what we've been watching,
Yeah.
let's talk about this. As much as this situation sucks and it's weird and it's brand new, is 2020 the most, I mean, have we ever been more equipped to quarantine because of all the podcasts and streaming services and ability to binge? Like if there was a time, like if we had to be like, okay, this has to happen,
Right.
like they tell the people in the 80s, like, okay, this has to happen by 2020. People keep passing it off. It's like, well, I think, if we had to make this decision as a country, like, okay, I guess this is the time. Like all these streaming services, all the podcasts. I mean, that's really what's getting people through to, just to, kill time. Because even if you are working and you're busy and you have kids and you're walking and you're staying active, you're doing all the things that you really can do and in the parameters of what's safe,
Right.
you still have enough time in your hand to pump out, at least an episode a night. So, I mean, I don't think we've ever been more equipped for a quarantine. Like if we flip the roles and we go back in time, you're 22 again, like me, what would you be like? What would you be doing during a quarantine? Like you only play so many board games or do so much.
Let me think. When I was 22, it was like right after I got out of college. So you're looking at like 2003.
Okay.
I'm turning 39 here pretty quick.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way. Like I'm going to make the most of this last year of my 30s. It's unbelievable that I'm going to have a 4 at the beginning of my age.
Yeah,
So that's
weird.
terrible. But you're right. I mean, I'm not like ancient, bro. Like we definitely did. We had internet.
But what I
Yeah.
you don't have to be ancient. Like all this stuff really just came into prominence. Like the
Right.
whole binge, like Netflix has been around, but all these other streaming services and all the original content they pump out, like
Right.
that's been very new in just the last 4 to 5 years. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. I can remember the infancy of Netflix, and it might have been around that time where
Yeah.
it was basically a Redbox scenario where you're getting DVDs mailed to you.
Right.
And then you're playing, like Blu-ray didn't exist. DVD was like this ultimate medium to watch films and things like that. So,
Yeah.
and then you have to mail it back and Facebook just started, MySpace. You're right. I think to stay connected, at least to be productive as much as you can. I mean, if you can imagine, like if you couldn't be productive and do work and video conferencing and phone calls and things like that, like then a shutdown like this would be just unbelievable.
Torture. Yeah.
I mean, like if I had to use a fax machine to like,
Oh yeah.
get you some order or like some information, like this is not a good thing. But you're right, it's crazy, man. And I think, to go back to the original point, I think entertainment is a vital thing in everybody's
It
day.
is.
Like entertainment, that's what my business is. Like that's what I do for a living, like sports and baseball.
Yeah.
Um, and that's an entertainment medium. That's why people are engaged with it. I
Right.
mean, and it brings an aspect into your day to just, you know what, I'm just gonna enjoy this,
Turn my
and
mind
kind
off.
of not necessarily even forget about what's going on. Not that like everybody's got problems, but just like this is something that I enjoy, and it gives you that I don't even know, this is probably not even the right word, but like endorphin, like some type of
Right.
mental trigger that's just like,
Mhm.
okay, this is a good thing today. Um, and yeah, so Netflix, or the fact that the studios are releasing movies into your home that would have been in the theater,
Yeah.
or just studying like podcasts, like the amount of podcasts I listen to as well when I'm walking. I mean, it's just
It's
unbelievable.
ridiculous. Yeah.
Um, but I think the other part of that too is just like the human component. So whether it's specifically like on a podcast or like the news or whatever, it's like you're actually listening to people interact.
Right.
And that's like the major thing that's missing, is the interaction with people. That's a vital part of society. Um, and I think that in and of itself is kind of like filling that hole.
Right.
But yeah, no, we've watched some crazy. I'm sure you're a film guy.
Oh yeah.
You're like you're plowing through some stuff that you've always wanted to watch, or you've got some time on your hands. But
I'm making my way through that list that has been built up over the years. Because, like you said, when you're busy and you want to, but you want to have something on, you're gonna throw on The Office or something that you've seen before, something that you don't have to like sit down and pay attention to. I'm not gonna throw on the new season of Ozark in the background. I won't even throw on the Ozark episodes I've already seen in the background. Like that's something that you really have to sit down and pay attention to. So yeah,
right.
it's been nice. So what have you been? I know Ozark and Tiger King are on both of our lists. What else have you been working through?
So yeah, those two specifically. In fact, I just finished Ozark, the whole thing, because I never
Whole
watched
thing?
it,
Okay.
last night.
You
Um,
had never seen it until recently, like any of it?
yeah, I mean, like I said, I just don't. I
Oh yeah,
used
that's
to be
right.
a, I used to be a big film guy. I'm just so busy,
Right.
And then at night, like I don't know, I just feel like I don't want to get invested into. Because here's the thing, like with the binging, specifically with the Netflix model,
Yeah.
like you have no reason not to continue watching stuff other than
No.
you're tired.
No.
So that's hard. That's a stumbling block for me. So I'm just like, oh dude, I'm just gonna keep going through here. I think they're getting wise where, like Disney Plus and things like that, they're releasing things on a weekly basis, like a regular television show.
Right.
I mean, there's pluses and minuses to both things, but that at least like curbs your consumption. I
Yeah.
think that's like a healthy thing for people. The reason that
Right.
they're doing that, I think that's a good thing.
Right.
But yeah, I've just gone back and watched movies, and I think we may have talked about this last time. I used to be a film major, so like
Right.
when I watch stuff,
Are you like
um,
breaking it down?
I'm breaking it down, dude.
Yeah.
Uh,
Can be
just
exhausting.
yeah, just like with sports. Like when you work in sports, we may have talked about this last time too. I don't remember, but I
Oh
can't go to
yeah.
Chase. I can't go to Chase Field and
No.
just watch the baseball game. Like I'm from the
Look at the
second I step on
background.
property,
Yep.
like I'm just analyzing how things work.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, the scene in the Hangover with what's his face with the beard, and he's kind of doing the Rain Man scene, and you see all these equations
Alan.
just like
Yeah.
above his head. Like that's kind of like how my mind works in certain places.
Yep.
Um, so watching a show like an Ozark, which
Yeah.
I love Jason Bateman, like the dude. Arrested Development is one of my favorite shows. It's so smart and
Incredible.
unbelievable. And this is a complete departure from that.
Right.
And I was telling, it's funny because I'm so late to the game on a lot of these things. But talking with some of my staffers and my coworkers, and it's like, dude, you've been watching this? Oh yeah, 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 yeah. And like my main takeaway from it is like it's so smartly written. There's a
Yep.
lot of plot holes, I think, but there's literally nothing happy in any of these
No.
episodes.
No.
Like it's just pure like craziness, and you're
Yeah.
drawn to it like a train wreck.
Yeah.
But But then like taking that next step, this is how I look at things. And like, it's written so well and like, oh man, they're touching so many things. But at the end of the day, you end up rooting for people
Yeah.
that are terrible people. You know what I mean? And like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
Like what makes it in your mind that you're like, you just end up rooting for people that have done terrible, terrible things.
Yeah.
And you feel for people's situations and things like that. And that's a byproduct of good writing and good acting and good directing. But then you got to take a step back and you'll be like, wait a second, holy smokes. Like I really shouldn't be thinking that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To a point. And then same thing with like Tiger King. So Tiger King, I specifically stay away from whatever you want to call it, like pop culture, like phenomenons. I like almost don't want to, like, case in point, like
go against the grain.
I've never watched Titanic.
What? Oh
yeah, I know.
Man.
I know, dude.
Wow.
But now it's like a badge of honor for me because I'm like, nah, I haven't watched it this much. I know people are crazy. I did the same thing with like Avatar, like anything James Cameron.
Yeah.
I kind of did that because it got whatever that point was, like the 2000s or 2010s or whatever.
Yeah.
Just like, nah, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
But just because like I don't need to, whatever. People are wasting their time on some of this stuff. So what happened was my wife turned it on at night and I came into the bedroom and it was on the TV and I was like, seriously, we're doing this right now? And she's like, I don't know, I just turned it on. And then I sat down and I watched it for like 10 minutes. And then my mind went into the mode of like analyzing this thing, not just watching it for the epic just car crash of craziness that it was, but just like what the heck is going on? Like the onion of that show for me, so many layers.
Yep.
And it's all rooted in like hilarious, like this can't be real life scenarios.
Right.
And I'm sure there's like, go ahead.
I had one thing, I don't mean to interrupt, but I think you bring up I just kind of put this together. When I think about, you've avoided Titanic, James Cameron. Now, do you think it's different too? Now, I don't know how active you are. I don't know how much you're like scrolling through social media, but I know you have Instagram and Twitter. Yeah. Now, is there any curiosity too? Are those things tougher to avoid now, the Tiger Kings of the world? Because all of a sudden, overnight, those come out to get popular, and then they're an instantaneous meme. They're all of a sudden all over TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, everything. Do you think now some of those things are harder to avoid? Like, there was no, the only people writing about Titanic, maybe people had some early blogs, when that came out in the late 90s. But, it wasn't getting talked about. All the, girls aren't gushing over Leonardo DiCaprio, up and down Twitter, and that's all you see. And I feel like there's kind of that, I'm going to speak like a young guy, Gen Z, whatever I am, you get that FOMO. You're like, I don't get any of these memes. People are sending me this stuff like, yeah, it's funny, but I feel like I have to see it to really get it because I'm just being bombarded with it. It's either watch it or just cancel yourself or delete yourself on the internet.
Right. I think, me personally, I think a lot of people will tell you this, and it's to my detriment or to my benefit, depending on how you look at it. But I work with a lot of young people, right? And case in point, you worked for me, right?
Yep.
I think relatability is paramount to having a true relationship with somebody, to know what's important with them. And I'm not saying Tiger King is like a pinnacle aspect of somebody's life, but that's something that is relatable. That if they're like, if I'm talking to you about, obviously you've watched it, I'm sure everybody that's worked for me watched it because it's a phenomenon. But you're right, because of social media and the way that these things get around and the way that people are like enabled to consume something, it is very much like an influence type of thing.
Big time. That
there is some benefit to me to know about what's going on so that I don't feel like, I'm also, like I said, I'm pushing 40 here. I think I've realized that, for me, I'd rather watch something on a Blu-ray.
Interesting.
And I know that's weird, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'd rather like actually have a physical disc to put something in to watch it.
Yeah.
Or like even CDs. There's something about a CD that I really like. And that alone has pumped in my mind like, holy crap, man. Like I'm seeing this generational change of like, why am I holding on to like some of these older things and not adopting some of the newer things just because it's familiar to me and like I don't want to take the time to learn about it.
Right.
So in things like this, it's that concept of like, you know what, I'm going to take some things. I'm just going to take the time to kind of like learn about how this thing works, just to be relevant.
Right.
But then also to be able to interact with people.
Yeah.
So the Tiger King, yeah, I think that's before I even sat down and watched it, you know, a name like Carol Baskins, like whatever, what does that mean? Like, oh yeah, Carol Baskins, Carol effing Baskins, like
Yeah.
killed her husband. And I'm just like, I don't know what it means, but I'm sure something means something. And then after watching it, now you're in on the inside joke.
Right. Like
And
I started my last podcast by saying, hey, all you cool cats and kittens, it's Joseph Vore, the Joseph Vore Podcast. Welcome.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
people are doing that stuff now. And I'm like, I can't avoid it. It's so cheesy. It's so easy to do. I'm sure everyone's doing it, but it's like, it's just ridiculous. Like it just, Carol Baskin, like I saw someone on Twitter posted, I think it was at Publix, and in the people, they're making cakes, and there's this Joe Exotic themed cake, and right next to it's a Carol Baskin themed cake. Like it truly is everywhere. It's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
You can't avoid it.
And but see, the things that I gravitate in on that show are things that I don't know if people, maybe they do, but I gravitate towards the littlest. That's how my mind works. That's why I think like a show like Arrested Development,
yeah,
a very like intricate, like thought through humor.
Yes.
So like there's a couple of things on that show that I thought were hilarious that I don't know if you weren't paying attention. So there's that guy, this is a spoiler alert if you haven't seen this, but whatever. Yeah. There's the guy that's like the hitman guy, the guy that they brought in at the end to like watch over the tigers or whatever.
Yeah.
So they're interviewing this dude like at all these different locations.
Yeah.
Like most of it's like him sitting on a pickup truck or like him sitting on the curb or something like that.
Yeah.
But then they went to this interview and if you're paying attention, like you're just listening to him speak, but someone had to tell this dude, all right, here, he's like, go to his house. Like, why don't you sit on he's like, all right, let's sit on the couch. Let's do this. And like, nah, why don't we do this? Why don't you go into like your 70s style bathroom and just run a bath, run a bath for me and sit in it and we'll film it and with no shirt on and then just like splash some water on your belly as we're talking.
Right.
I'm like, what the, like that? I was laughing so hard. I'm like, why is he doing this right now?
It's so absurd.
Somebody had to tell him to do this or like,
yeah, because when you think about all that stuff, you know, you see like stuff in the office and, you know, or whatever, and it becomes so commonplace now. It's like, you know, someone had to write this. Like this had to go through someone's head. Like, you know what we're going to do for this episode? Michael's going to burn his foot on a Foreman grill. Like,
yeah.
That's just not real world stuff. Like that just doesn't happen, but it works for Michael. Like someone like Michael, like what happened, all the, like it's so absurd, but at the same time, it's so believable. It's like we're witnessing genius, whether you realize it or not.
So then there's that other dude with like the long hair that always wears like the deal with it sunglasses, and he's constantly sitting on an upside down like gallon paint jug, like smoking heaters, just like answering questions. But the dude looks like he's like straight out. He's like the dude from, and these aren't good movies, but like the Matrix, like Revolutions is like in the subway. Yeah. That's like jumping through and like telling, you know, he looks like that guy. And I'm like, everybody, but these are technically real people, right? So the other thing that was hilarious that I just lost it. I mean, I lost it. So they built that pizza restaurant right next to the tiger cage. And they're building it, and then, you know, it comes out that they use like the rancid Walmart meat to throw like salami and sausage on these things.
Yeah.
But they pan up and they show like the name of this thing. And the name of it is just strictly Pizzeria. But like pizzeria is spelled like with an E.
Right.
So pizzeria. But this thing is just literally spelled pizza RIA.
Yeah. And
I just could not stop laughing at it because in the back of my mind, I'm just like processing it. I'm like, how did they think about calling this thing this?
Right.
Joe Exotic's probably like, I don't know. We should probably just call it, you know, Pizzeria. And they're like, okay, yeah. So how do you spell that? I don't know.
Yeah.
Pizza and then like add Ria. I mean, that sounds right. Like Pizzeria. Yeah. Okay, yeah, let's throw it up there.
Or the scene where the person gets hurt and before he does anything, he has to throw on the EMS jacket. Like,
oh my gosh.
Like how, I mean, this guy, say what you want about him, but what an entertainer.
So there's the funny parts of it. And then I start analyzing like the human condition parts of it, right? Mm-hmm. So then you start analyzing like like the person that had their freaking forearm like chewed and clawed to where they
Yeah.
had to amputate,
Show up to
and then
work the
she's
next day.
back to work like
Yeah.
in 7 days. Like, this is
Yeah.
insane. And then you start thinking about, like I said, I analyze this stuff. You start thinking about like what are people drawn to?
Right.
Like, you see the show's called like Tiger King, and this guy is building an empire for himself, and he wants to be, I mean, that's what the human condition is. The human condition is like, you want to set yourself on the throne, basically. Honestly, I mean, I think we're all prone to do that, unfortunately. And and the allure of like holding like a dangerous animal,
Right.
and what it does to get people to do things,
Yep.
just like drugs, or just like fame, or just like fortune. And it's so there's like a serious aspect of it. There's like the whole crime scene aspect of it. Then there's like the hilarity of like this being taking place in this backcountry, like dude, initially I asked myself, who in their right mind is going to this freaking zoo,
Yeah.
like, just in general?
Right.
um and so, I mean, we can analyze it for days, but that's why I just got sucked in. And then I started just like, because when I get into something, I need to research it
Oh yeah.
continuously. So now I'm going on YouTube, and then like David Spade, who looks like Joe Dirt, is
Right.
doing these like whatever we're doing, these Zoom calls with like the
Right.
actual people, and like
Yep.
kind of like subtle burning them like to their face,
Oh
and
yeah. Well,
they
he's a
just
big
did not,
comedian. He's doing his thing. Yeah.
yeah, they didn't connect the dots.
Nope.
Um, but then I just got invested with it. And supposedly there's supposed to be like another episode or something, but
Yeah. Have you seen, it was so funny, there was another investigative uh type show. It was called Don't F with Cats. It's on Netflix. It's like one of those deep dives. I don't know if you ever heard of that.
I
It's
haven't.
really
No.
it's really interesting. It's about this guy, you can't see him in the video, but he makes this video of him literally like putting cats in these bags, and he's like killing these cats. He's like sucking the air out of them, just these horrible stuff. This guy who's obsessed wants to be famous, so he makes this super viral video. I think it went on YouTube, and then all of a sudden these two people basically did like a citizen's investigation, and we're calling all these places, doing all these background searches and checks, and they basically made this Facebook group that absolutely blew up, and everyone's throwing in clues, and it's this whole thing. And it's so funny how people on Twitter, where I'm getting at is on social media, they want to like team up these people like as if it's a Stephen King universe. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, this character and that character, now we see them in this movie together, or whatever it is, right? And people are like, oh, we need body moving from Don't F with Cats to team up with this person to find out if Joe, to free Joe Exotic, or to find out if Carol Baskin actually killed her, fed her husband to the tigers. And it's just, like we said, it's just a phenomenon, and the draw of it is just so crazy. And then the big thing too is, if you really, I can see it. I've been there before, where I've been scrolling on Twitter and I'm a little late on something, because if you're late, you can be late on something, and you can only be 2 days behind the premiere of, for instance, Tiger King. It could
Right.
blow up immediately on social media. Oh, you haven't seen it in 48 hours? Well, like, you're like way behind, man. It's way different than what it was. You go back to talk about, I'm not ancient, man. I'm like, I know you aren't, but like the progress and all this stuff just in the last 5 years, you could even do 3 years, is, leaps and bounds different and bigger and growing. And yeah, it's just crazy. The draw and the phenomenon of it all is just so wild.
And a similar thing happened like this last year that I got into, that I didn't want to watch it. I didn't care, but then people were talking about it in the office, your generation. And so I'm like, all right, I'm going to start watching this thing. And I got hooked on it as saying, and that was the Fire Festival one.
Yes.
And,
yes.
And that one wasn't so much as a train wreck of hilarity,
Right.
as it was just like, what the heck was going on? And so you got sucked into it.
Yeah. It was,
and
some of the things are pretty funny. Like, okay, you have this island, you can't say it's Pablo Escobar's island. First thing they do in the promo, come to Pablo Escobar's island. Or they're like, oh, it's they'll probably be here late anyway, so let's just ride some jet skis and rip some Coronas. Like just like, what? Like, just the, yeah. Anyway, sorry,
no,
ridiculous.
So I got second, but to your point, when I was a kid, so I'm a huge Star Wars guy. Like, just because I grew up on it. I'm not like, I'm not going to conventions or anything like that, but it was a thing where as a kid, I had to go to the midnight showing.
Yep.
And even then, like the word doesn't get around like it did. There was no Twitter, you know what I mean?
Right.
But I had to be one of the first ones to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Not because I thought it was going to get spoiled, but because like I wanted to consume that content
Yeah.
immediately so that I would be the first to be like, wow,
Right.
okay, I get it. And so that I wouldn't, and then I could talk about it to other people. That's the best part about these things. It's one thing if you're just watching, it's even like watching baseball. So let's
Yep.
relate it back to what I do. You know what I mean? Like if you're not watching the game live or you're DVRing it or
Yeah.
whatever, you don't want to know what happens. Or if you watch it on Sports Center,
Yeah.
you're like, holy smokes, this happened in that game.
Yeah.
You want to be aware of, because like if we're both fans, let's say I'm a fan of the Cavs. I'm not. But it's like, you know, like you just posted something recently about, you know, the block from the
Right.
finals
Right.
because it was like the anniversary. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like if I'm not watching it immediately, and let's just say I'm a Cavs fan, you're like, dude, check that, dude, that was amazing.
Yeah. Right.
You know, or let's say I'm the Warriors fan, which I kind of am,
Yeah.
and you're texting me immediately and being like, yeah, dude, what now? You know what I mean? It's that consumption of it immediately in
Yep.
the moment so that you're experiencing it with other people. I think that's the
Right.
draw of these things.
Right.
And because we're kind of socially remote, I think that's what these things are doing for us.
Right.
So yeah, Ozark, like Tiger King, you know, the staples, like I said, that I already watched, like
Right.
movies. I haven't really gotten into anything else. Somebody wants me to watch whatever it is, Money Heist or.
Yeah, I heard that's pretty good, and I think I just got a notification. I think part 4 or season 4, whatever they call it, just dropped. I've been getting into. I just watched a mini series on HBO, Chernobyl. You
Mm.
ever seen that or heard of that? I mean, it's a real event. I'm sure you know you.
I've seen parts of it, and some of that stuff, like I just don't want to watch.
Yeah, it was pretty rough to watch, but it was super
Because
interesting.
yeah, it like haunts you a little bit.
It does. It's like I can't believe. And then you think about how eerie it is. That's so many years ago, and still that whole territory, just no one can come back to because it's just not safe. Still has not been cleared. All this land that just had to be absolutely abandoned because of this nuclear reaction and the radiation or what we know, whatever it is. It's just totally unhealthy to be there. Like to think about that that's just sitting out there, and you can't do anything with it is pretty eerie.
Yeah, I mean, well, just seeing the pictures is unsettling to say the least. Like you throw like a doll on the ground. Well, it's not even something like crazy, like a
Right.
doll on the ground. Again, that's how my mind works. It's like, holy smokes, that was somebody's family. Like, who
Right.
knows what the heck would happen here?
Yeah.
I forget if Chernobyl is that the one. Do they have like a Ferris wheel or something like something eerily like
I
some
think it was one of
amusement park
those.
or something?
I think I saw. Yeah, they had like an amusement park type thing. The one thing that I remember was one of those things that go around and they were like swings. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah. I think that's what it was, and it's just like all rotted and beaten down, but it's still there. And you just think about all the good memories that were there, because like you know, if you work in film, and then you think about because you see that thing, it stands for something, but then you think about you almost kind of subconsciously build that backstory in
Right.
your head. Like that could have been a girl. Like you could go as far as that dog could have been some little girl's best friend. Maybe she was bullied at school. People didn't like her, and you think like she lost that one thing. Like that's such a big deal to a little kid, and that just adds to it. And it gives me chills to even think about.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing too, I feel like content in general. So when I was a kid, the content was music. I think that was the biggest driver of content.
Yeah,
And so there was like a stigma or like a desire or a drive to find the unfound music.
yeah,
So like the indie music. Oh, dude, have you listened to this? Oh, well, and it's kind of like you're not part of the club. Like
yeah,
that was a unfortunate, like prideful part of it. Just be like, oh yeah, he doesn't know. She doesn't know what I'm talking about. Or there's the other side of like, dude, you got to listen to this, like XYZ, independent, blah blah blah, like not mainstream. And then there was a stigma with that of like, oh, dude, it's so commercialized. Oh, you listen to whatever, uh, In Sync. You know what I mean?
yep,
Like, but no. or you listen to some mainstream rock band. No. Check out this alternative. Check out this upcoming band.
Right.
And I feel like that's transitioned into, there's still a lot of that out there, but it's transitioned into now just content in general.
Right.
Like, oh dude, check out this podcast. You got to listen to it. Like
Right.
it's under the radar. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Or have you seen this like little thing on Netflix, or this, whatever, something on Google Play.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's now how things kind of pick up steam. And that's what drives the conversation.
Yep.
You know,
that's why we're here. That's why we're doing what we're doing right now. Like, this is, it's wild. Really.
What do you fill in your time with, man?
So
in an ASU apartment when Mill Avenue was shut down and there's not a whole lot going on, man.
No, yeah, because I come back and everything's shut down. Like, it's completely a different world. And, I was gone for 12 days and literally got flipped totally upside down. So I still get up pretty early on my own. I haven't been setting an alarm, but I naturally have been getting up like around like 7 at the latest. So I get up and I just go on. I usually start off stretch, just to kind of, because I'm sitting around all day. So I'm like, the last thing I want to do is just, be like there's just no reason to feel like that. So I stretch and then I'll go out and walk, and it's nice outside. So it's good to be out in the sun and walk. Usually, one day a week I'll go to the grocery store to get food. But I'm, coming up with different, what I try to keep it interesting is mainly, my biggest difference in the day is like, all right, what am I cooking? Try to get something different. I'm going to try this out. Nothing too crazy. I've been building this pretty epic salad. I just get like some greens, like the spring mix and spinach or whatever. Throw some blueberries, pineapple in there. Then I've been doing some egg whites and then salmon. And then I get like this, and then some avocado, then this cilantro avocado dressing.
Yeah.
Oh, phenomenal. It's like, I was just throwing stuff in there that I liked. I don't even know like if some like chef or foodies out there could be like, oh, that is a cardinal sin. You can't mix this with that or whatever. But I was just throwing stuff in there that I liked and I thought would be like healthy and like would actually like fill me up. It's been good. So I've been kind of addicted to making that. But other than that, I'm just like focusing on like, make sure I keep my apartment clean. Like, don't become a slob. I'm not trying to, like, I'm just really trying to pound out these podcasts. Like like this one probably won't go out for a few weeks because I got like 2 or 3 scheduled right now. So, and the great thing about doing these podcasts is, first off, it's kind of pushed me, because of the circumstance, do these Zoom calls. And, I haven't done, like, this will be the 3rd video podcast that I've done. I never, like, mine were always audio. So adding a new dimension to what I'm doing is pretty cool. I feel like this is great for Zoom. Like, everyone uses Zoom now. I used to use Skype for, call-ins, and it was always just still audio. And now, Zoom's everywhere. People are doing pranks and like the lectures. I'm sure you've seen some of that on social media where kids are like sending like famous pranksters and YouTubers, including some people that I work with. I'm sure they're putting together videos of them, going in on Zoom calls. But this has been great for Zoom. And I think about too, I want to ask you this, like some of these late shows and radio shows and things like that. I don't watch a ton of them. Where I see them is just clips on YouTube. I kind of like to watch them in little bits. I'm not like sitting down and watching. And it's like, all right, Jimmy Fallon's on. I'm sitting there. I'm committed to the hour. I'm going to watch it live. I just like to catch the fun segments, the viral stuff on YouTube. They're making these shows work. And, I don't know what the numbers are, how well, they're doing, but they're making these work and they're still pretty entertaining from the stuff that I've seen. Do you think studios might be more reluctant to spend, the money on these big studios? Do you think because podcast is really the way that things are going? You kind of referenced Joe Rogan earlier, and he talked about, like, yeah, you need those staples, like those studio shows do well. There's a lot of money in them. They're hosted by, big familiar people and, they have stars on all the time. But, the content that people are really trying to get is kind of the sloppy stuff. Just just like us, just going back and forth and having we're just basically having a regular conversation. It's just happening to be, recorded and put out in, like a podcast entertainment form. Do you think things, will continue to trend more that way? And maybe studios are reluctant to throw all this money and like, no, we can just kind of do it like this and get more creative and kind of break out of our kind of like natural, safe, this is what works. We bring out, Zac Efron with Jimmy Kimmel, and, they do this little segment, promote the movie. Maybe they could, they could do it more efficiently, more remotely. It won't look as, sexy and glamorous as the studio things do, but more of these things are more acceptable, and the technology continues to get better, that I feel like the consumers, for the most part, will, the people that haven't adjusted will adjust. And I think a lot of us, like me, I'm already pretty adjusted. I still like watching the stuff on YouTube. So what do you that was kind of a long-winded thing I'm throwing at
Yeah.
you. Kind of,
I think,
how do you kind of feel about that?
I think there's different mediums work for
Yep.
different purposes, right? So
Yeah.
like if this was like a long format podcast, which kind of is,
Right. That's what I'm
this
going
is
for.
this is a good scenario.
Yeah.
It honestly, like I've seen some of these things, they're just trying to do it to keep it going. But
Yeah.
when you remove the element of like a late night television show where they're interviewing people and the live audience,
Yeah, that is a big thing.
that is you lose a major component to why things work. So like case in point, like I don't really watch Ellen all that much. I'm not home for daytime television.
Right.
But like if you took the Ellen show and put that isolated with no studio audience,
Yeah.
that's a completely different product. You know what I mean?
She's kind of like the modern day Oprah in terms of, how the crowd interacts and gets involved in their show.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it just takes an element out of it, like Saturday Night Live, like with no people. Like,
yeah, that would be, I don't see how that could ever be something without a crowd.
It's strange, but you're right. But you got to look at it from like cost and profit and revenue perspective. I mean,
Right.
Overall operational cost for something like this is very low.
Yeah.
Zero. So there's definitely some upside in there. I just think it's really based on the content.
Yeah.
But I think what it will do is that it will allow people to be more accepting of integrating something like this instead of thinking that it's a low budget.
Right.
Oh, that's just like, what the heck? Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, let's just say, so you have to interview somebody, but they're on a different continent.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you're going to do it this way, and it may not be like as high profile or whatever.
Right.
But you're still getting good content, and I think people are no one's going to care. I think that's the other thing. Like, nobody cares.
Yeah.
How the production level, and I think in some ways, like lower production level, gives some type of organic realness to it.
Yep.
That people like. So I think it just really depends on the product.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there's money to be had in it.
For sure. Yeah, it's got to figure out, advertisers, like all of that kind of stuff, where do they work that in, if it's still on it'll be interesting, but I think there's definitely something that I'm sure these conversations are being had, I guess, is what we're really getting at. This is, it's on the table to kind of work it out.
Well, let's put it this way. So like I'm recording this in like my office, right? Yeah. And so subtle like things that you wouldn't even think about.
Yeah.
I mean, most people think about it. Like I'm looking at your office or room there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And in the back you've got like a TV or something. Yeah. And it's like, I can't tell what. Yeah, I can't tell what TV that is right now, but you know what I mean? But then like if you look in my background.
Yeah. See the skateboards, the night.
Yeah, you see that, little things like that like mean nothing.
Right.
But then people look at it, and then there's like these firings that go off, and be like, oh, I like this guy. Oh, he's got that. That's like part of his house. Right. Interesting. I wonder what that is.
Yeah.
Little ways to like monetize things or influence people. I mean, it's all done on Instagram anyway. Like people do it already, but.
Right. But it does give a new perspective. That's interesting. Conan, just for example, could be one way. He's very, kind of like dramatic and kind of animated and things like that when he's delivering, and he has a certain personality. But depending on how they set up their backgrounds, a lot of these guys are doing in their offices or whatever. If there's little like mementos to what they're interested in, they could almost be viewed as more relatable, more real. Now, if it's just kind of boring and blank, mine, you really can't get, I don't have a ton of, decorating in here. This is more of a temporary place. It's not like a home, but But yeah, I think that would be, kind of cool if, because like if someone had a similar background to you, and it's like, oh, we're just used to seeing this guy in the suit, yeah, he talks to the celebrities and, they have their little back and forth and he has these little jokes, but it's like, oh, Conan, like if you were Conan right now, it's like, oh, Conan's into sneakers, he's skateboarding. So, oh, that's cool. What kind of old, video game is that? He's into shoes, look at all the shoe boxes. Like that could be pretty cool. Like that's the first thing that I noticed when you popped up. I was looking in your background and I went right to those shoes right there. Those are sweet.
It's like, this might be a bad example because I actually really don't like when they do this. I'm not trying to call them out, but okay, I'm not going to name a company, but so like I drink a lot of coffee and sometimes I go to like places where it's like a drive-through coffee, right? And like they're meant to like spur conversation. So, and it's like over the top. It's just like, dude, I just want coffee, bro.
Coffee, man.
Like, how's your day going? Where are you headed?
Yeah.
But then they like, looking in, oh, like what's in the passenger seat? Oh, what you got there? What you got?
Much.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think there is some legitimacy to that. And I think the other thing, not to get like super crazy with it, but I think the one detriment, let's talk about like drawbacks to this.
Yeah.
Is that this type of scenario though, creates a world that you can live in that's not real.
Yeah.
So one thing that's funny, like, oh, it's hilarious. Like I'm throwing the Bahamas in the background and like, you chroma keyed my face out or whatever.
Yeah.
Or, I'm whatever on a mountaintop and that's fun and that's great. But we live in such a society where like the camera is on, like everybody has a camera. Everybody is on stage at some point for the most part. And you can go really to a point where you don't realize like what is real.
Yeah.
I know it's weird. I'm trying to not get too deep here, but it's just like when I'm on camera, when I'm on Zoom or when I'm on Instagram or on stories or whatever, like this is what I'm highlighting.
Right. Yeah.
But then in reality,
who's calling in and who's in the coolest place, who's doing the coolest thing.
Yeah.
And people start to seek that stuff out and it gets and that can get, eventually, everything kind of loses it's tough to keep that originality, that genuine feel for the longest time. There's always going to be people that, try to upstage people or, whatever it is, make things seem like, they're not or better than they are, that's really how social media is. Very rarely do we see anything but, someone's very best in terms of a picture or whatever else.
Yeah, correct. And then if they don't post the very best, then like people are like accusing them of like,
yeah,
oh, you're just doing, why are you?
Yeah. Oh, did you go out there?
Still hear me?
Yep. Yeah, we're good. There we go.
So I specifically in this time, you've seen a lot of people like throw up their meters. They're like, oh, my screen time went up like hours a day. And you're like, holy smokes. Like, yeah, you have to do that for work. But like, I've actually taken a step back. I'm, to my detriment, my wife will tell you, I am that guy that is unfortunately glued to this. Not necessarily because of content, although that is something that you're always scrolling, but for response. Like I got an email, I've got the Apple Watch, it dings me, you know. I got AirPods in, like it immediately cuts whatever I'm doing and tells me I need to do something. So I've been trying to, and it hasn't worked, but reduce screen time. Like, no, I have the opportunity to be here and to kind of like reset this thing and try to take a step back. And like I said, that's going full circle to what I was saying about being old. I think now I see these things, you know what I mean? Yeah. So now you see like my dad or my grandfather, that's just like, I have no interest in these things. And it may not be because they don't want to be involved or whatever. I think there is an underlying current within that of like, you know what? I think I realize like what's important in my day, and the world changes immediately, just like we're seeing. And do I really need to be consumed by the latest post on Instagram or scrolling up in Twitter and trying to just like refresh everything to kind of be, so it's that dichotomy of like, we want to be up to date, but like, do we need to be up to date on everything
Right.
and be on camera 24 hours a day? And I think that's kind of where my mind is headed. And so like I said, it's been refreshing. But to your point, you're talking about cooking and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, I've been trying to reduce that and go into that. I've been trying to cook stuff.
Yeah.
I'm a terrible cook, dude. I'm like Charlie Brown. Like, I can cook toast and cereal.
Yeah.
And but I started getting into like cooking eggs.
Yeah.
Like, product that you can manipulate into like various different forms.
Oh yeah. Get creative with eggs big time.
Bro, the last 3 weeks have been like a legitimate Easter egg hunt because nobody has eggs.
Yeah.
I'm going out on
able
runs.
to find like the egg whites in the carton. That's how I got in. I'm like, okay, I guess this is work. This is just what I'm eating now because I can't find my traditional eggs.
Yeah, like to the point where I'm like, we need to buy hens and a rooster because I'm freaking tired of this. I'm tired of like going to Trader Joe's and like not having eggs or fries or whatever.
Yeah.
But and those runs, I felt like, I forget the dude's name, but like on the early seasons of like Walking Dead, where it's like, dude, we got to go get some supplies. Okay, I'm like hunker down and gear up and like try to like go out there and try to get what I can get.
Right.
So eggs have been that thing for me where I'm just like you said, cooking, preparing meals. Like we actually, like, I would rarely cook, dude.
Yeah.
and learning that and taking that as like a real process and failing miserably, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I love over easy eggs. Like when I go out to breakfast, I want over easy.
Right.
I don't know how the hell you could cook an over easy egg. Like, I'm like, I gotta flip this thing
Yeah.
and somehow not
Bust
crush
the
the
yolk.
nucleus of yolk. So I best intentions, and then it ends up being like, well, it looks like it's gonna be scrambled.
Yeah.
And just
That's like me when I was a kid in art class. Like I have this vision in my head, but when pen hits paper, when pencil hits paper, when brush hits canvas, it's just it looks like I was, trying to paint it and while I was spinning around in a washing machine. Like it's just awful. Like,
yeah.
you just can't do it. I have no touch.
Yeah.
I have vision, no touch.
So yeah, it's just it's nuts. But like I said, it's all good, and we'll get through this. I mean, depending on when you said this airs, like a couple weeks from now.
Yeah, hopefully it's a lot better.
Yeah, that's like what's cool about this type of stuff too. It would be like, wow, we've talking about this today,
Right.
and in 14 days since I've talked to you, like,
right,
the world is better, hopefully.
Yeah, just for reference, we are recording on April 9th, and this is going to be set to go out probably I'll put it out either that Sunday or Monday, 26th or 27th, because I got a couple others lined up right now. So that could be really different, and hopefully a lot better. So hopefully there's some tremendous progress that happens between now and then.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So we'll see how it all pans out, and we're taking it day by day, but trying to have the best time. But you got to be positive, man.
My first couple of days I was back, and I'm looking at the reality of my future's up in the air. I'm getting ready to graduate, and all of a sudden you're thinking you're going to come in and have a job and be ready to go, and now it's either going to be a reduced role, kind of a more in my case a more project by project thing, nothing guaranteed for the long term until really we can start going out and doing our regularly scheduled programs again. I was in a panic those first few days, but after that, and you feel sorry for yourself a little bit, but at the end of the day, it's so cliche, but the sun's going to come up and it's going to go down, it's going to come back up in the morning. And that's when I was like, all right, I just had to kind of whip my ass into shape. I'm like, get out the planner, just like you. I'm like, setting these checklists, even the littlest things, put it on the checklist. You feel good about crossing it off. Like, get these things done today, working on LinkedIn, reaching out to people, doing podcasts, checking in on people, talking to the family, like just doing all those things. And I managed to keep myself busy. There hasn't been a day where I'm like, this day is the longest day ever. It's never going to end. And yeah. I'm very happy. I'm happy I've been able to do that. And it sounds like you've been able to keep yourself busy as well, which is great to hear. And I'm glad all of you are doing well and healthy. And then I'm glad you mentioned it was your mom or your wife's dad, but he's feeling better now. So I'm glad that that's all good.
Yeah, no, he's feeling great, which,
Good.
obviously that was something that was heavy on us here for a couple of weeks.
Right.
But yeah, no, he's doing good. Her mom's doing good.
Good.
Um, so we're blessed, and we're definitely thankful for
Yeah.
what's happening so far. And, just like I said, stay positive with it, and take it one day at a time, and
Right.
kind of go from there.
That's absolutely right. So before we wrap this up, what's next on Joe Pun's Netflix list? What's he gonna watch? I don't know. We got.
I don't know. I think I gotta, dude, finishing Ozark. Like, if you're not into that show, like I said, it's pretty meaty, bro. Like,
It is.
just every second you're just like, wow, I'm kind of
But
depressed at this point. But
yeah.
so I think I gotta go something with more
Lighthearted.
levity
Yeah.
and fun.
Yeah.
I always go back to, like, I just like I said, Office and Parks and Rec and
Yeah.
New Girl, like those are
New Girl is great. I was rewatching a few episodes of that the other day. So good.
So Jake Johnson is I just feel like I relate to him a lot. Like, my wife tells me the same thing. Like, there's some episodes, like little things that he does in that show that's just like, I just laugh because that's me. There's one scene where he gets really aggravated over little things.
Yep.
And so, like, I've literally done this. I forget if I talked about this already, but like, the door is closed,
Mm-hmm.
and it says like push.
Yeah.
And he's trying to pull it, and he's like, push, screw this, I'm pulling this thing. Like little stuff like that. So we just watch it and we just laugh all the time. But
That's awesome.
so I need probably stuff like that. Like, I watched Onward with the kids, which is that new Pixar movie.
Okay.
I liked it. I mean, it's not, it's not Toy Story or whatever, but it's a good one. So I don't know, man. I mean, I don't know what else is coming out. I don't know what I need to get into or like revisit.
Yeah.
But I definitely need something a little bit more lighthearted
For sure.
and fun and happy. And I got really into the Great British Bake Off there for a second. I don't know if you've watched that show. It's basically a cooking show.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's I think in Britain it's just called the Bake Off.
Okay.
And so they bring in like 15 bakers, and they got to cook stuff on like 3 challenges. It's a classic, whatever.
Yeah.
And I just got really into it because had the British accent, dude.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, that just makes the show a million times better.
It takes it like, it makes it like 25% better at least.
Yeah, and then I got my daughter into a show called The Investigators, which is like a kids, basically like a Scooby-Doo type of show.
Yeah.
But all the kids, they're based in Australia.
Interesting. Cool.
So they all have an Australian accent.
Which is like the coolest thing ever.
Oh, 100%, dude. So I've been watching that with her. And the main character is a little Asian kid, which I relate to. I'm just like, oh, this is cool. Like, he's like, whatever, like the main leader of this detective group, and he's got like an Australian accent. So we've been really getting into that. She's been binging. I think that's the other thing. Like, seeing my daughter interact in this world has been really, really eye-opening, because she has to do class via like Zoom.
So weird.
So she's like taking it. I've been trying to, because I like to make fun of things, and I've been trying to drop little like things that she needs to say.
Yeah.
Like, she's in the workforce, like
Right.
circle back, dial it in. You know what I mean? Can we table this math for a little bit and kind of move on to this, or like, let me check my calendar.
Yeah.
And none of her other what am I looking for? Friends. Yes. Yeah. None of her other classmates is what I'm looking for. Yeah. Really get that. But I'm in the background just like laughing.
Right. You got to give her the new meaning of recess. Like, we're going to take a break. We're going to recess this, for 30 minutes, like, and not go out and play in the playground. Like, if you're in a court of law, like, well, we're going to take a recess here. Yeah. You need to, all those. That's hilarious. That's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, hold on, Mrs. McCarthy. Let's take a step back here.
Yeah.
Let's rewind. Let's just make sure that everybody's on the same page. So what you're saying is 3 times 4 is 12. Okay. Just, we're all clear. Everybody get that?
And it's still 12 if you flip the numbers, and it's 4 times 3. That's what you're getting at here.
Right. Yeah. So that's been fun. But yeah, those are kind of the things that we've been going through. And I don't know anything on my radar yet, but I'm sure I'll find something.
Yeah. Have you gotten into any of these dating shows? I know you set me up with the Bachelor thing, but are you even a Bachelor fan to start with?
No,
I didn't think so.
no. So I specifically stay away from that
Yeah.
just because it's just I know the recaps and you're super dialed into it, but
Oh,
like
big
my
time.
wife started getting into whatever the heck it is, blind date or something.
Love is Blind. Oh yeah.
And I'm like, no,
Nope. Can't do it.
no, I can't do it, man. Like I just can't.
But they're in these pods away from each other in separate rooms talking and dating. Do you think that they knew something when they were putting this show together? It's the ultimate dating social distancing. And it's super woke because you're focused on the person, not their looks, because you don't know what they look like, because you don't know what they look like. Kind of the greatest show ever in terms of social justice or whatever you want to call it.
True. But then it immediately, I mean, so I haven't really watched it. So I don't know if this is true.
Yeah.
I've like chimed in as I've walked in and out of rooms.
Okay.
But then it gets immediately unwoke, right? When like they actually see each other and then they're like, yeah,
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
Yeah. I mean, some people have been, I won't spoil it for you because I know you're going to watch it. Right. But yeah, I mean, some people, everything's been pretty good so far, but it's so funny. Like, one person is like running up to the other person, and the other person just kind of has to like absorb the hug and kind of the kiss, that they were anticipating, but maybe what they look like or what they envisioned just isn't, just didn't match up. It hasn't been too bad so far, but that being said, I'm only 3 episodes in, but I do appreciate the realness of it. Like, it's uncut and they really kind of, it's not, The Bachelor and Bachelorette can be very glamorous. Like it's a big ABC show and they try to keep it as PG-13 as possible. But this show is just, I mean, that's what you get when you have a streaming service. It's kind of like, I imagine, it's not at the level like of an HBO or like Showtime or Cinemax did one, but
Right.
it's pretty real. And I can appreciate that in points, but I can only take about one episode of that a day. I don't know if I can sit down and binge it because it's very cringy. It can be exhausting in that way.
I think the biggest reason, I don't know, not that show because I haven't seen it, but like let's just go back to The Bachelor and that type of genre.
Yeah.
I can't get past the like unrealistic premise of it. That's why I'm just like everything about it is fake to me.
Yeah.
Like whatever, I don't know what it starts with, 30 or something, 30 girls or 30 dudes
girls,
or whatever.
30, yeah, whatever. It's a big
Bachelor, Bachelorette, and they're all trying to vie for this one person's like love, and they're competing against each other. I just feel like it's so fabricated, bro.
Yeah.
Like no one who would want to do that. And
Yeah.
I know, like
no, but like
setting you up and you being the Bachelor. I mean, I get that side of it, but like the other side, I just don't get.
Yeah, so like my thing is, I think the reason that it works and the people react the way that they do and they become so emotional is because, a lot of it, can seem fake. And when they do these like, hometowns and meet and greets, like the houses just look too nice and too put together. Like ABC definitely like rented this house, and whatever. But when you like, I always make the analogy that Chris Harrison, the host of this thing, like he and ABC are like the puppeteers and they're up in the rafters just calling all the shots because basically all the contestants, they're all living in, they live in this nice mansion, but they're living in these close quarters. They're cut off from the outside world, like internet, phones, like all that's cut off. And you have 8 weeks and you're there. And a lot of these people are, single and desperate, or maybe they're going after fame, whatever it is. They're like, well, I'm here. I might as well just try to get as famous or fall in love with this guy because there's nothing else to do. And I think that's what kind of creates all the craziness and nonsense. Now, there's definitely stuff that's staged or that they suggest and kind of throw in there. And the way that they edit it can manipulate it. But I think there is a little realness to it. And, the reason that people go crazy, I don't think they have to seek out people that go crazy because I think the environment does that for you because you could realize it, know all the secrets in the background, but until you're living it, you really don't know how you're going to react. And I'm not saying that the show is 100% real.
Right.
I just like to kind of I just like to play devil's advocate.
Well, plus the other thing that just I can't get past is that there's always like some just off the wall, like crazy person on this thing. Right. And then, but yet that person like makes the cuts.
They always stick around for a few weeks because there's a guy that, they always know that they have a guy in there that's going to be, especially when it's a guy who's going to put his chest out like, this guy Like, where does he get off? You know what I mean? Or my laptop. You know, where does he get off? Like, we're gonna have a conversation, and then all of a sudden, you know, there's the rivalry between contestants, and then that guy always ends up getting screwed because he's focused on that, and then he's just complaining to the to the bachelorette about it, and and it's just nonsense. But you can't deny. I mean, I watch it ironically. I watch it for entertainment. You know, I'm not there with a bowl of ice cream crying my eyes out like, I hope I can have a love story like that one day. Like, no.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know. There's probably, I mean, I'm sure there is. I don't know how many seasons there's been. But like the actual, like, what am I looking for? Not retention, but you know what I mean? The actual like success.
Oh yeah. Very low.
It's very low. Yes, correct. Correct, dude. Yeah. The one episode that I do like because Becky watches it and then I have no clue what's going on.
Right.
But there is they do that one episode that's like in front of a studio audience.
The Women Tell All, where they bring them all back and then it's just a fight or a bunch of guys with testosterone going crazy. Like, yo, bro, what'd you say? Like, yeah.
I do enjoy that just because of the train wreck of
it is
putting these people in a room and seeing what happens. Like, I think that is kind of funny.
Yeah.
But I still don't even know. Like, I'm just like watching I don't know exactly what they're referencing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right. And you kind of get,
But yeah, man. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, great, Joe. This was fun. We started off with all the Corona stuff, but I really liked where it went. It's always fun. We always have a good conversation. And like I said, glad everyone's doing well and doing healthy. Just, hopefully it stays that way and stay safe out there. And thank you again.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Of course.